It's the man we all know and love, Kwame. And you are tuned into Street Lit Talk with the queen of Street Lit, Wahida Clark. Controversial topics, celebrity and influencer publishing, and of course, Street Lit books. Because after all, it's Street Lit, cause she's lit and she's the queen. So let's go, let the room fill up. Come on, let the room fill up. Now share the room, y'all. Let the room fill up. Come on, let the room fill up. Now share the room. And let's get it started for Street Lit Talk. Let's go.
Peace to the God. Peace, Allah. Hey, yo, there go that brother Grand Poobah. Heard that brother got knowledge.
Yo, True and J, brother. Yo, let's have that brother come over and add on to the site.
The attribute hard to help to another God in need. He Allah God Islam as I proceed to civilize the uncivilized. Word of wisdom to the groove from the wise. I guess I'm like the verbalizer for the fact of moving blackwards. This Asiatic black man is a dog spelled backwards. The maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth. Father civilization, God of the universe. Manifesting thoughts with my infinite styles, making sure this travels 23 million miles. The other six I set the crucifix because the heart of the problem is this.
Big on it, God.
Preacher got my older putting money in the pan for the rest of the week. Now I'm eating out a soup can. He has a home, drives his caddy through town. Has my old earth believing that he's coming from the ground. Slain are those who fought for what was right. Slayed are those who fell victim to the pipe. A drug-controlled substance containing a vial. Said about a devil as he looks and he smiles. Good at the game of tricknology, but I have knowledge of myself. You're not fooling me. You see the answer to me is black unity, unification to help our bad situation. I wrote this on a day of wisdom, power, all being born of myself.
God.
I won't diss the next brother to be paid. It's not my trade, it's just a plan that is designed by the colored man. Now our babies are born to think this is the way of us. That's the way the devil wants it, so it is no fun. It's just that sad old song, self-destruction, to stop our reproduction. Then put our wisdom before us.
Murderer.
That makes it wisdom, knowledge.
Murderer.
But we need knowledge, wisdom to bring forth the understanding.
Murderer.
Culture, freedom.
Murderer.
Power, refinement.
Murderer.
Equality, God build, destroy, bonds.
Right. Welcome everybody to Street Talk with Wahida Clark. I am the official queen of Street Lit. Welcome everybody to the room. I see some friends, I see some family, I see some colleagues, I see we are the builders. Well, at least I did see them in here. King Six and the Fifth. Yeah. Let me see. Let me try one more time to bring up one of my guest speakers. I hit invite to speak. I don't know why. Hadi has a problem with getting up here on stage. I have the national spokesman of the New World Nation of Islam. Um, did he get up there? Nope. I don't know what Hadi Ali is not doing right. But sir, I am inviting you up to speak. I hit the invite button. I think you have to hit something to get on up on the stage. But again, welcome everybody. I am Wahida Clark, the official queen of Street Lit. Street Talk with Wahida Clark. The subject tonight is Muslim gangsters. I am bringing you this first ever exclusive in-depth interview with some of the most loyal and dedicated soldiers and members of Elijah Muhammad's New World Nation of Islam. Who and what is the New World Nation of Islam? Where did they come from? Did they just pop up overnight? And some more questions that I'm sure you all would like to get answered. Now, I assure you, those frequently asked questions and several more, we will go in depth, live, and in real time right here tonight. Now, on my guest panel, I will be talking to a couple of the core members of the New World Nation of Islam who just don't talk about it, they are about it. I have the national spokesman. You see him brand new to Clubhouse with the party hat. That's Mumin, is the national spokesman of the New World Nation of Islam. I'm trying to bring up Hadi Ali, one of the core members who has been on the scene for over 45 years, awaiting this day. I'm also trying to bring up, let's see, Mr. Keith Hill. Now, in my ad, in my promo, we're going to discuss the Battle of the Knives. Now, the Battle of the Knives, that happened in Trenton State Prison a long time ago. That was with the New World of Islam Muslims versus, at that time, Iman Warith Dean's Bilalians, they were called at that time. That was an attack on the New World Nation of Islam that was called the Battle of the Knives. It's recorded in the history right there in Trenton State Prison. I have one of the brothers, Mr. Keith Hill. Okay, there go Mr. Hadi Ali. He made it up. Mr. Keith Hill, he lived through that. Let me see if I can bring Keith up. Let's see, invite to speak, Mr. Hill, also known as Wazir Ali. I hit the button for you to come up on stage because you guys, you brothers are who I'm going to be talking to tonight. Now, it's amazing and very impressive that these brothers have never dropped the banner. They never stopped singing Elijah's praise, even under the threat of death from the devils themselves or the opposing Muslims. They never stopped believing or reverting to Orthodox Islam when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad passed. Once these brothers professed their allegiance to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they never slid back into the dead world or the old ways, lifestyle, and habits that Elijah's teachings pulled them out of. So, again, welcome to everybody in the room. And because of a half of a century of belief, dedication, and practice, they are considered major scientists in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, interpreters of the Bible and Holy Quran. But don't take my word for it. Let's get it started. And we're going to start with the national spokesman. Please introduce yourself, your rank, and how long you've been a follower of the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, ma'am. We thank Allah Muhammad first of all for this opportunity. We waited all our spiritual life for this opportunity. My name is Phil Major Mumin Ali Allah, National Spokesman for the New World Nation of Islam. And we've been following the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for the last 47 years.
Whew, 47 years.
Original gangster.
Okay, I like that drop, Wahida, aka Nuance, my co-moderator in the building and on the drops. We're going to move right to the next brother, Hadi Ali. Can you introduce your name, your rank, and how long you have been a believer in Elijah Muhammad's New World Nation of Islam?
Peace, peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
My name is Brother Hadi, Brother Phil Major, Hadi Ali Allah. I have been in the New World Nation of Islam for 45 years.
Mm, 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 mm. Okay, next up, we have Brother Keith Hill, also known as Wazir Ali. Can you please introduce yourself, your rank, and how long you've been a follower in the New World Nation of Islam? You have to unmute yourself, sir. Now, we have some triple OGs on the stage, so they're probably not too familiar with this Clubhouse app. But Mr. Wazir Hill, you're going to have to hit the mute button. And now he is back into the audience. I don't know how that happened. Let's try again to bring him back up on the stage. There he is. He's back. Now you have to hit that microphone button, Mr. Hill. Hit that microphone button to unmute yourself. All right. Doesn't look like he'll be able to do it. Well, hopefully he'll figure it out by the
Wahida, make sure he pushes not the one on the picture, but the one at the bottom.
You hear that, sir? Mr. Hill, push the microphone, the one on the bottom. We are patient. And again, thank everybody for coming out tonight to enjoy my first clubhouse room. I figured I'd kick it off with a bang, with something very controversial. And what's more controversial than the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad? And what's more controversial than the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, but Elijah Muhammad's New World Nation of Islam? And with that, I think I'll address that question to the spokesman before we go into the Muslim gangsters part. Please tell the audience, who is the New World of Islam, and when did the Nation of Islam become the New World of
Clark,
Islam?
can you send me the link? I can't hear my volume. It's no volume for my stuff.
Hassan, you
Who was
interrupting the
that
live. I'm
talking?
on live.
Yes. Okay, go ahead, sir. My co-moderator, please mute yourself. And spokesman, please answer the question, who is the New World of Islam, and when did the Nation of Islam become the New World of Islam?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that we are the New World Nation of Islam. We never said that we are the New World Nation of Islam. The New World Nation of Islam has always been the Nation of Islam, and the Nation of Islam has always been the New World Nation of Islam. The only exception is that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad made it clear that though you are accepted by the Laborers Board, though your letter of registration is accepted, you still have to wait and see if you are accepted by Master Farad Muhammad. Therein lies the key to the New World Nation of Islam, that the only way that you can see it is, this is the ignorance of those who didn't understand, not in a negative way, but because the scriptures say, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, there had to be a falling away in a spiritual night of darkness. So now we are telling the world what went on during the night while they slept. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote an article, November 11, 1966, prepare to enter the new world, unite with your own. And in there he points out Master Farad Muhammad establishing a new world. But remember, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said for 12 years, he didn't teach the identity of Master Farad Muhammad of 1930. From 1934 to 1946, at that time, he began to teach that our Savior has arrived. And then 12 years later, 1958, he said in the Rickery Auditorium in Newark, New Jersey, I see Allah in the audience, don't you? Now, mind that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was so sick that his doctor, his family thought he was going to die. But he said, Allah told him, never miss an opportunity to teach. So he came. And as he began to teach and look out at his beautiful audience, he said, I see Allah in the audience, don't you? He said, no, it's not time yet. He was so happy. He said, I'm giving Newark my number, the model mosque number, 25. Now, this is breaking with tradition. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad would sequentially and chronologically or in order would name the mosques that qualify for mosque or temple status. But they weren't up to 25. But he said, I'm giving you Newark my number. But now remember, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in the true history of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad on page 43 that he don't expect Master Farad Muhammad of 1930 to come back. He don't expect him, as there's more prophecy of him not coming than him coming back. As the scriptures say, he will send his angels. Therein lies the confusion. Remember, Jesus comes under a cloud of mysticism. So what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is saying here is that he saw his Allah, Shabazz, not Karash. Remember, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in the Muhammad Speaks article, Jesus, sign of a future Jesus. He said you have two Jesus histories, as I have said time and again, and even an apostle history of the last days, all under the name of Jesus 2,000 years ago. Well, this is indicative of Farad as well. One Farad is from Karash in fulfillment of a promise to Muhammad of 1,400 years ago. May he forever be one with Allah and all of his companions with him. And it refers to another Farad, Shabazz, who comes and kills the devil. These are two distinctions. That's why the scriptures say in John, there's one coming after me that is preferred before me and was before me. That's referring to the two histories of Master Farad Muhammad. And the new world is established by the Allah that Almighty God, Allah, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad raises, called his Savior, his Jesus, his Mahdi, his Messiah. And he adheres only to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, don't know anything but what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says. This is Mary giving birth to the baby Jesus, which is a man child. And he speaks in the infancy of his wisdom, and his first words out of his mouth is all praises due to my father, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad established a new world, and we stand on the foundation that he established for us. The only distinction is the new world consists of the true believers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who does as he says in How to Eat to Live, Book 2, page 75. Leave my teachings as it is. And we do so under the Savior that he raised for us. And this is the new world as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
All right. Thank you for that. Again, welcome to the room, Street Talk with Wahida Clark. I am the official queen of street literature. Our subject tonight is Muslim gangsters, the New World Nation of Elijah Muhammad's New World Nation of Islam. That's the new book that's just dropped under the New World Nation of Islam publications. And again, I will applaud everyone for being in the room because this is such a hot and controversial topic. Uh, our people are accustomed to whenever you hear Elijah Muhammad's name, they duck or they're just scared or they just like, oh, just close their ears to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So with that, and then we're talking about Elijah Muhammad's New World of Islam. That brings me to my next question. It said the New World, before I go into the Muslim gangsters part, that's what everybody want to hear about, the Muslim gangster, but I do need to clear this up. It says the New World Nation of Islam says that releasing this book, Elijah Muhammad's New World of Islam, is the birth of the New World Nation of Islam. Can you explain that? And why do you have to be born again if, like you just said, the old world is the new world and the new world is the old world?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that we must be resurrected out of a mental grave of ignorance, which make us deaf, dumb, and blind. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad made it clear that we had to be born again out of our ignorant, spiritually blind, deaf, and dumb state. So spiritually, we are resurrected. We are born again because we were dead. The prophets classified us as dry bones, as deaf, dumb, and blind, as robbed and spoiled, as everything but a child of God. And this is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is making clear to us, that we are the ones that have to represent him in this idea.
Okay, okay. And I see a couple of hands up in the audience, but before I bring you up, I need to ask another question in reference to Muslim gangsters. Now, everyone is hip to be a gangster. It's cool to be a gangster, but we're talking about Muslim gangsters. There's some gangsters who say they're gangsters, but they are not gangsters. Now, in my research, what I saw was such a gangster move, and I hope either yourself or Hadi can talk about this, was the government. You guys went to trial, and the government wanted to charge the Nation of Islam with being a criminal organization. But during the trial, the New World Brothers said, I don't think so. And what did they do to deter that from happening? That is a historical moment, and it's when I remember Seth Ferrante, uh, the, uh, the white guy who did that book. He interviews a bunch of the people that's been in prison for a long time. So he did a segment, a chapter on the New World of Islam. So tell me, how come the brothers did what they did, and why was it successful? Who wants to answer?
We must remember, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, there is no justice for us in the American court system. It is a system designed for the degradation and the ultimate destruction of black, brown, yellow, and red. We must accept that reality or suffer those consequences. So now, what was the last part of that question? Sister Wahida.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm steady talking. My microphone was on. The government declared you as Muslim gangsters. The trial of the New World 17, the government wanted to charge the Nation of Islam with being a criminal organization, but the New World of Islam, they didn't have it. They didn't participate in the trial. Could you talk more about that?
Yes, ma'am. As we said, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that there's no justice in the American court system. Our beloved leader and teacher, seeing this and understanding this through the eyes of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, made it clear that we were not going to participate, or the brothers who were charged under that particular RICO Act were not going to participate. You will carry it out of your own accord. And this is what happened. Non-participation shifted the power dynamic, which though they still received prison time, they didn't receive what the devil really wanted to give them, which is time enough for them to die, or for us to die in prison. So Allah, he blessed the believers to not have to suffer what Satan, what the devil had in mind, which is to try to bury us.
Wow. So they went through the trial without participating. That trial lasted for how long? Do anyone know?
Not offhand.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you so much for that, national spokesman. And again, this is actually, let's go back to the Muslim gangsters. So, why do the government call you guys Muslim gangsters?
Why do they call anyone who stands opposed to status quo? We must understand, freedom fighters are never, revolutionaries are never given accolades of praise and honor until they overcome the opposition of oppression, of which the government is that cornerstone of evil. Once they are able to balance the power dynamic, and once they are able to exceed their being equal with their oppressors, then they began to receive all of the praises that they should have received prior to this. So being called everything but a child of God is a part of the natural cycle of from difficulty comes ease. So this is why they call us this. They know, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, they put the fear of these devils in our people down to the very seed of the black man. So much so that our people don't even want to breathe unless they are able to ask these stinking devils for permission to even think for themselves. So this is why they call us these names, because they know our people will be fearful to even come close to us before declaring that we are not their brother.
Okay. All right. I think I'll let Brother Hadi answer this next question, Brother Hadi Ali, because the national spokesman, Mumin, mentioned Master Farad Muhammad. So, Brother Hadi, let's speak more about Master Farad Muhammad of 1930. Busta Rhymes and Rick Ross, they did a song titled Master Farad Muhammad. They rapped that he sold silks from door to door. However, that was only a disguise. Who was this man who made himself known in 1930 and left in 1934? Give us the New World Nation of Islam's truth on this man of mystery, and why does he have such a huge significance, and why do you vow to name your children after him for at least 1,000 years?
Brothers and sisters, we thank Allah and Muhammad to be present to live in a time that the prophets would have been satisfied to see half a day, according to the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. May the peace and blessings of Allah forever be upon him. He lives through us, the New World Nation of Islam. We thank Allah and Muhammad for our leading teacher among us today, General Ali Mahdi Muhammad. And we thank Allah and Muhammad for the dynamic representation by our national spokesman, Field Major Mumin Ali Allah, and of course our hostess, Mrs. Wahida Clark. The new song spoken of in the scriptures that the believers will sing, which is the understanding of the tradition, pardon me, the transition of power from one God to another. Master Farad Muhammad of 1930, born of the tribe of Quraysh, to the future Master Farad Muhammad, born of the tribe of Shabazz and raised from among the so-called American Negroes by the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. A good father provides for his children, the scripture says. And Ali Mahdi Muhammad asks, did you think that you would be left without guidance? Did you think that our father, the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, would leave you without guidance? Elijah said, after me comes God in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. This day would not be possible if not for Master Farad Muhammad of 1930 being raised for a specific purpose, a specially prepared man, half black, half white, whose life mission was to disguise himself as one of the enemy to get among us and find one man. That man was the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. We read in Message to the Black Man by the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, page 14, paragraph 5, pardon me, the chapter entitled The Coming of God and the Gathering Together of His People. He says of his first meeting with Master Farad Muhammad of 1930, he says, I asked him, who are you and what is your real name? He said, I am the one that the world has been expecting for the past 2,000 years. I said to him again, what is your name? He said, my name is Mahdi. I am God. I came to guide you into the right path that you may be successful and see the hereafter. Now, Revelations 10:7 speaks of the seventh angel and reads, but in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, the voice of the seventh angel being Master Farad Muhammad, when he shall begin to sound, when he shall begin to teach the truth, the mystery of God should be finished, as he has declared to his servants, the prophets. And Revelation 20 speaks of the 1,000 years Christ will reign on the earth. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the great Mahdi has taken Farad as a name for himself, corresponding with the time of his coming, which is the early days or years of the 7,000 years, and the year under the name millennia, which the Christians say means the 1,000 years Christ will reign on the earth. So also Revelations 19:12 says he had a name only he knew. This fits Farad, which also means an all independent one, a name outside of the 99 attributes in honor of our Allah in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. We will name our children after him for at least 1,000 years. Peace, peace.
Amazing, amazing. I'm going to send another one at you, Brother Hadi Ali. You teach that the Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad's doctrine or teachings, they are tailor-made for the black man and woman here in North America, and that Elijah's doctrine is superior to all other sects of Islam. What do you mean and how so?
Well, first of all, we thank Allah Muhammad much for these questions. Genesis 15:13 and 14 in the Bible, Allah says to Abraham, Abraham, know for certain that thy descendants shall be lost in the land that is not theirs, wherein they will be enslaved and oppressed for 400 years. But after that time, I will come and judge that nation that enslaved you, and you shall depart with great riches. Now, that's the first book of the Old Testament. The last book of the Old Testament, Malachi chapter 4, verse 5, tells us, behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the day of the Lord arise. And he will turn the hearts of the children back to the fathers and the hearts of the fathers back to the children. Lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. So it says, if Elijah does not come and save enough of you to return you to your own, the rest is not worth sparing. I'll destroy the whole thing and start over. So Elijah, according to this, must come first before Jesus. The Old Testament ends with Elijah coming on the scene and making a way for Jesus, whose birth opens the New Testament. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, we would be foolish to believe that it was referring to a Jesus of 2,000 years ago. So since Elijah has to prepare you, how can you be ready for Jesus, the Son of Man, the great Mahdi, today if you ignore and reject Elijah? You cannot accept one without accepting the other. Elijah said, although I might seem insignificant to you, nevertheless, I am the man. And I just want to add something. The most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad taught us that man is God. He says, every time you look at a black man, you're looking at God. Savior's Day, 1974. Okay, then. He teaches us we are all gods, right? He says, we did not know pardon me, we didn't know that Master Farad Muhammad, who came in 1930, was God, except it was revealed to us not by Master Farad Muhammad, but by the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. So Elijah had to reveal that Master Farad Muhammad was God. So should it be strange to us now that the Mahdi has to come and reveal that Elijah was God? So how is it that Elijah in his dead state could recognize Master Farad Muhammad as Allah on first meeting him and revealed the scripture to support it? Yet Elijah isn't God, though, we say. Ali Mahdi Muhammad answers like this. He said it takes a God to recognize the God in another man. So this is one of the ways gods operate. Had Master Farad Muhammad revealed to the general body of the so-called Negroes or believers coming to hear him that to him teach that he's God, and he just tells them, how is he to know when the man comes along who's supposed to find him, who's supposed to identify him? How would he know when this man comes? He knows because Elijah said, I recognized him as soon as I saw him because I had been expecting him. Remember, Elijah was named by his grandfather. Elijah means my God. Muhammad means worthy of praise, and his praise much. The Bible says, but I tell you, Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but have done to him everything they wished. In the same way, the Son of Man is going to suffer at their hands. That's in Matthew 17:12. We hope that answers the question.
Okay, you landed that plane in a good spot. Now, this question would be open to either one of you brothers. So from what you just said, so that's a lot of the flack that the New World Nation of Islam has been getting because you say and you teach and you believe that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was more than just a messenger, that he is Almighty God Allah. And the other Muslims, Orthodox, Sunni, whoever, they charge you guys with practicing shirk because of that. Who would like to discuss that?
Yes, ma'am. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the old world of Islam, the Orthodox world of Islam, they agreed to hear that he calls himself a messenger. But he said, you have not been able to do what I have done in resurrecting my people. It takes a God, as the brother said, to recognize a God. The Holy Quran says that every messenger comes to his people so there won't be an excuse for exercising disbelief. And surely we send not a messenger except in the language of the people that we are to warn. But in the last day and time, it is the fulfillment of Holy Quran chapter 5, verse 3. In this day, the day of judgment and resurrection, this day have I perfected for you your religion and bestowed upon you Islam, Islam as your religion. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad came with the purest, the highest, the supreme uh, version of Islam, and that is the black man's God and the white man is the devil. And no one to this day can dispute it. It tells you in the scriptures, Bible and Holy Quran, that God is a man and he's black. It tells you in Revelations 1, verse 7, you will see him as he is. You can't see a spook, a spirit, a cosmic being. Then it goes on in the 14th and 15th verse, and this is confirmed in Daniel 7:9 that God is a black man. They call him the Ancient of Days. He had hair like sheep's wool. That's not a white man on his best bad hair day. It said he had hands and feet like unto burnt brass. Black man. This is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaching us who we are. No one taught us this in any religion, but especially Islam. So his form of Islam is supreme, but arrogance, ignorance, and any other form of negativity will cause the majority of the people on the planet, according to the prophets, to reject and go down with the devil. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teachings are supreme. If they weren't supreme, he would have been rejected by the, as they say, the mighty and powerful Hajj committee. They would not have let him come into Mecca. But not only did they let him come into Mecca, he sat down with the scholars and scientists, answered all of their questions, and asked them one question: who is the original man? And say he could see the Qurans turning in their heads and could not answer. And here the original man, the Lord of all the worlds, was sitting there. Only a few know this today. And the white man who is Muslim sons and are aware of the Holy Quran's teachings know these things. But they're not going to tell it, and we don't depend on them too, because that means their destruction. The first teachings of Jesus was, who do you think this man is? Talking about John the Baptist. A prophet in Raymond? He said, I'm telling you it's more. No one outranks a prophet but God. That's what the scriptures say. But more importantly, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did the work that it said Elijah, who comes before the great and dreadful day of the Lord, will do. He did it, and it classifies him now, whether you accept it or not, whether you believe it or not. He is the Lord of all the worlds to us. And you will have this to learn the hard way very shortly.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, sir. We will take a question from the audience before I go into Muslim gangsters. That is the long-awaited topic. King Sick, do you have a question for our panelists?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to know if they had Elijah Muhammad's text in front of them right now, or they could read me from page 100 of Fall of America. I'm sure you're familiar with that text. It's a very similarly important text. Fall of America, page 100. Does anybody have access to that?
I do. Hold on. Okay, Fall of America, page 100.
Yes.
Which part would you like me to read, sir?
The part that deals with the Africans, and it talks about the good, who what a good African is.
Okay, hold on. It's the savagery of America. Is that the chapter, sir?
I believe it is. I'm driving, but I'm pretty sure it's page 100. I'm almost bet my life on page 100. If you just
Okay,
dig
it
into that,
says
it'll get to it.
it says, okay, so there is no such thing as law and order. The law is disregarded as though it were thrown in the jungles to be carried out by savage beasts. Murdering, killing, robbery, raping, and drug addiction are the only law and order that is respected. It has become such a country that the civilized man of intelligence and decency is afraid to walk the streets of the vast towns and cities of America. He would be more secure in the jungles around in the midst of wild beasts than to be walking in the streets of these great cities in America after night. Is this the part you're talking about?
Read on.
Groups of robbers and murderers, killers and dope addicts are prowling the streets after night to exact their evil intentions upon the innocent. This is a mob of savages that the intelligent and decent woman should not dare venture out among. And if we see such women walking around, they are part of this savage people. It has become dangerous even for the girl and woman to be standing alone in any unprotected place, day or night. Rapists lurking around bus stations and robbers also, and thieves are at such stations and with such conditions existing in a so-called civilized country like America. This is the worst name that could be applied to her. Police, detectives, and FBI all are here, but these daring savage acts are committed right before their eyes and ears. And that is the end of the chapter. What particular part was you
Okay.
looking for,
Well,
sir?
there is a part that speaks about the only good Africans are educated Christians and Muslims. And it was a piece of the text that it always kind of had me scratching my head. I have to make it home and actually see what page of the text. I'm pretty sure I'm not too far off. And so it was one of those things that kind of had me scratching my head about how did Elijah Muhammad view Africans, African people, and African culture and traditions, because it talks specifically in the book about seeking jungle life. And it said that no decent African person would be seeking African spirituality and African traditions. And so I wanted to know if, because this is, maybe a little bit different organization than Nation of Islam, what are the viewpoints on the leadership about the seemingly anti-African rhetoric that is contained in Fall of America.
Okay, which one of you brothers? As I said, these are major scientists in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Which one of you would like to answer the brother's question?
I'll take it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad made it clear that our people in Africa are our brothers. He said, they are of us and we are of them. We have to understand savagery. Savagery is personified, it is perfected by the white man. Who can be more brutal? Who can be more savage? Who can be more beastly? Who can be more ungodly in their administering what they call justice and righteousness to the people, of which anybody who can see would beg to differ? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was pointing out what happened as a result of the forced slave raids. Remember, as our people who are scholars, scientists, gods, who built cities, who built nations, that still marvel the scientists of today, of the white man. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad made it clear that our people here and all around the planet are in need of a re-education into the knowledge of self. Because if you look at any of our brothers and sisters on the continent, there was some white influence through slavery or colonialism that requires that we be converted out of that savage way of thinking, which makes us look down on each other and divide ourselves among ourselves and look to the devil to resolve the problem that he has put the seed of dissension in. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was pointing out that the savagery that he's talking about of the brothers and sisters in Africa are those who have lost touch with civilization, like we at one time lost touch with civilization. They are our people, but in the state that they're in, they need to be re-educated like we need to be re-educated into the knowledge of self, God, the devil, the time, and what must be done. And this calls for, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, are people who are highly educated, that are black, whether they be Christian or Muslim. They have to be re-educated in order to reclaim the mantle and the banner of self and do for self and kind. This is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is saying. He's not making slight of our people, because as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the white man has put us in a state of savagery. The only difference is we're not on all fours, so we can't charge our brothers and sisters with that. This is just a disposition reference of the state that our people were put in. But ideally, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching that if we get the right advanced education, we will see and fulfill what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has on the front of Muhammad Speaks. Black man locking hands with black man. He said that interpretation is coming true. If we call our brothers and see our brothers as savages, we could not lock hands with them except to fight him.
Brother Hadi, would you like to add anything to that?
And Wahida, we also have a couple of questions in the chat room as well.
Okay, hold on. King, did that?
Can you hear
Now
me?
I can hear you. Did you want to add anything to what the national spokesman just said regarding
Yes,
question?
yes, ma'am. We thank Allah Muhammad for the national spokesman's reply. It brought to mind something in the fall of America on page 16. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says this. We want to quote what he said regarding Africa. He said, "We must realize that whereas the black man in Africa is our brother, our central responsibility is with the black man here in the wilderness of North America. For us to expend our energies pleading for the cause of Africa is like a blind man pleading that his fellow blind man be given eyes while he continues to stumble in the dark. The solution to all of these problems lies in a clear cut understanding of the truth. I have come to bring you that truth. Now, I spell it out so that even the children among you may know the nature of tomorrow. The drink I got from this, more than anything else, what stood out to me was that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad clarified first what Africa meant to us. He already told us that Africa was our brother. We are already, as Muslims, doing business in Africa. So we really would like to see that statement that the brother was talking about, because when we say that these scientists are scholars in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, it should be known that we have spent these years studying the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teachings, writing essays, fasting, praying. We went up in the prison system and gave up everything for the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So, generally, when somebody says something that came from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we generally can go right to it and find it, or we can quote that statement. So, we just wanted to mention that if the brother comes across that, we would appreciate him passing it on.
Did your answer your question get answered, King?
Man, I'm trying to find this page so bad.
And you drop. Well,
I'm
if you
trying to find
find
this
it,
page so bad because
just
go
let
ahead.
me know, because I'm looking in the chat. Um, and I Lion King Liberation. I don't know if you want to come on the stage, but he said, "I wonder if family willing to debate or answer challenging questions." I'm sure they will, because, like I said, these are scientists of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teachings that I
I
have
found it. I
on the
found it. It was
stage.
page
I'll get
150. It
back
was
to you,
page
Lion.
150.
Go ahead,
It
King.
was
Go ahead.
page 150. I'm sorry. It was page 150. It was page 150. It was page 150.
Okay, so page 150 of Fall of America says, you want me to start at for nearly 40 years or before that?
It starts talking about traditional Africa.
Okay, so for nearly 40 years, I have been preaching to the black man in America that we should accept our own. And instead of the black man going to the decent side of his own, he goes back seeking traditional Africa and the way they did in jungle life and the way you see in some uncivilized parts of Africa today. They are not using barber's tools, shears, and razors to keep themselves looking dignified as a civilized people should look. The black man in America accepts the jungle life, thinking that they would get the love of black Africa. Black brother and black sister wearing savage dress and hairstyles will not get you the love of Africa. The dignified people of Africa are either Muslim or educated Christians. But Africa today does not want Christianity. Do not think that you will get a home in Africa after this war if you are a Christian. To get a home in Africa after the war, you will have to be Muslim. Which one of you brothers want to respond to that?
What's the question?
What's the question,
Mm.
King?
The question is, obviously, when we look at when this book was written, in the 1930s, 1940s, we're talking 80 years into the post colonization neo-colonial period in Africa. And I understand we've gained a lot of knowledge and information since the time of Elijah Muhammad, and I think we understand his brilliance and his genius. But I think we also do understand nearly 100 years later, we're a whole lot smarter than the Negroes that Elijah Muhammad came to America to help, right? And when we begin to look at what Islam is, Islam comes from both the Arabian people and the Ottoman Turks, right? The scimitar in the 8th century that was brought into Africa that slaved more than 20 million African people at the hands of the Ottoman Turk beasts who killed 20 million African people, I think puts us in a position of juxtaposition where it is very difficult for the leader of a Black Muslim religion to espouse that there are no good traditional African culture. What that is essentially what he is saying. What has built the pyramids in Kemet, that would be traditional African culture. Songhai, that would be traditional African culture. Mali, that would be traditional African culture. Sudan, traditional African culture. Nubia, traditional African culture. So I think there is a juxtaposition, particularly when we say that they are not using the barber shears. So for us to lock up our hair is not good, right? And so essentially what is being espoused here could be called anti-African. Because when we are saying that the only good African is an educated Christian or a Muslim, we have to understand Africa's relationship to both Islam and to Christianity and Catholicism, right? The highest relics in both of these religions is the black stone of the Kaaba in Islam. And again, the holy city of Mecca is a place that you could drop seeds on the ground everywhere. Nothing's going to grow. There is no fertileness to that soil, right? And so when we understand that us as a people, as African people, people who are from Al Kebulon, to say more succinctly, we have to be careful about any usage of religions and the vernacular that takes us away from our culture. Culture is the thing that solves the problems of the people it belongs to. And the last time I checked, the suits, with all due respect, that are worn in the Nation of Islam are not Black culture. It's not African culture. That belongs to the culture of European people out of London, England, right? That's not our culture. And so the sisters in the Nation of Islam, ironically, wear the hijab, which is the Arabs' culture. So what we have is we've got a hodgepodge remix of Islam to the degree that we have the ability to be anti-African and get away with it, right? And so again, and I'll close with this, Minister Farrakhan trumped that particular speech when he talked about, don't you want the hair on your head to be straight like the hair on your eyebrows? And he said that we are the only people who are marked. He said that we are marked because, and disfigured because of our disobedience to God. And so this is the reason why your hair is kinky. So I think between Farrakhan's kinky hair speech and page 150 of Fall of American, that any Black person who has any love or affinity of the origin and the culture of our people would say, to who is it that we should be loyal when it comes to the Nation of Islam? And I understand this is the new nation. We got the old nation is in Scientology, belonging to L. Ron Hubbard, a white supremacist who was in South Africa in 1960 and 1961, who literally offered his e-meter machine to the South African government to oppress Black South African people. So we've got a lot of really anti-African, both in practice and also in rhetoric, that is being espoused by not only Elijah Muhammad, but some of his progeny. So I just wanted to hear sort of what is the perception of traditional Africa, because again, he said seeking jungle life in traditional Africa, right? And so in my picture, I guess I'm in the wrong because I'm wearing traditional African clothing in that picture. So now I'm a savage, you see. And so I think that we have to be very clear about those who are espousing anti-Africanness within the religions that do not belong to African people. We must remember that when Islam came into Africa in the 8th century, that 20 million Africans were slaved by Muhammad Saladin the Red, right, and others who, with the scimitar, slayed and murdered African people in what is called the Arabization of Africa. So with that, I will close, and hopefully they can answer the question to the degree of what is the perspective and viewpoint of the new nation of Islam towards African people, Africanness, and African culture, particularly that is traditional.
Thank you for that long question, King. Which one of the
Mhm.
major scientists would like to respond to that?
Yes, sir. Everything the brother said, it has merit. Everything the brother said has a foundation. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in Theology of Time that we need a new understanding and a new way of seeing everything of this world, even down to A and B in the kindergarten of the white man. We need a new way of seeing and understanding. This speaks to the traditional African. It is not a derogatory statement. It never was meant to be by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It was just based on tradition as we saw it, not as Webster's or collegiate. It's the way the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave it to us with regards to tradition. There's old traditions and new traditions. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was speaking of harvesting and harnessing the best of the past of our people, the traditions, and presenting them in the present and ushering them into the future in a new world. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad never spoke in a derogatory way, in a vindictive way towards our brothers and sisters in Africa. But he pointed out clearly how we all have been marred, how we all have been misled by an open enemy. Now, with regards to Islam, many of the people on the planet are of the impression that Islam began in the 7th century with Muhammad of 1400 years ago. May he forever be one with Allah and all of his companions with him. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the beginning of Islam, which is the nature of God, began with God himself. So if there's misunderstanding with regards to that in the world, it will be misunderstanding with regards to tradition. Now, as the brother said, he's absolutely correct. We have no clothes as a people. What we are wearing, as he said, a hodgepodge or the best that we can do under the circumstances. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that his Allah makes all things new. And that includes how we see one another, how we accept one another, how we embrace one another and do for one another. That will be a tradition among us as well. So we have to look at tradition according to the circumstances in which tradition has been given to us and what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught us about tradition when it comes to our brothers and sisters in our homeland.
Brother Hadi, would you like to add to that anything at all before I move on to the chat?
Yes, ma'am. Do you can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay. The fact that a Christian, a Muslim, or someone saying they're a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, or whatever else, the fact that they might come and say that they have a religious belief and that religious belief sanctions the abuse of another people, then what you're talking about is hypocrisy or shirk, what they call it in Islam. You're not talking about someone who actually takes the book and actually practices the book. So if that kind of history took place, and we know it did, we know it's taking place among the Christians, we know it's taking place among every people. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that Islam did not originate with the Arabs, not the white Arab, that all of these people came out of Europe, migrated among the original people there and all over the planet as they have done, deceived and dominated the people, the original people, until they have diluted those people and they have taken and whitewashed their identities and stolen their legacies so they are able to come forth and say that they are Muslim or whatever else. But that has no bearing on the fact that what we see here happening today, the Islam that was given to us by the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad never laid claim of Islam to the Arab world as being the originators of Islam, because as the brother mentioned, Islam is as old as God Himself. Islam, or the true religion of God, has to come with God. Now, the other thing we wanted to mention that the brother made a point about was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in talking about the savagery of Africa. He also mentioned the savagery of the United States and the so-called American Negro. There is uh, a lack of advancement through every people. In other words, there are people that wear those fashions or try to emulate those fashions, both here and in Africa, who represent those people of ours who will not come out of the sleep that they have been put in by this civilization. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is known to constantly have had diplomats in his home out of Africa constantly who always visited the Honorable Elijah Muhammad on their way in and out of the country. So, yeah, as the brother spokesman has mentioned, there may be some misunderstanding here in regards to the intent or the meaning here. But we know for a fact that we are interested in building an advanced state of society in which a high level of improvement or development in manners, language, standing, walking, sitting, science, religion, and government has been reached. And we look for truth or advancement from wherever it can be found. We cannot bring in a new world unless we start with the best. We look for the most advanced. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, you might say, well, you got on a blue suit, Mr. Muhammad, saying that he wears the clothes of this society. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, I wear that suit or that blue suit so that I can get up on you and teach you. So now, if it's going to get us, or whatever it's going to take for us to get or rise to the level of advancement as a people whose total identity was stripped from them, of people who bear witness that even in Africa, even though tradition is practiced, there is disagreement as to what part or what part of the culture of Africa, if we pardon me, the 50 million black people in America return to Africa, what would we as a people step into Africa with? As the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, Africa could not really receive us as a whole because of the savagery and the ignorance that has been instilled in us here in America. Peace, peace.
Peace, peace. King, did your question get answered, sir?
I thought the first brother did a good job of answering the question and just saying that, hey, look, it's flawed.
Mm-hmm.
It's flawed, right?
Okay.
And one thing that I do appreciate is when people have a sense of responsibility about their religious practice, because again, I think it's not about what we think Elijah Muhammad did in hosting dignitaries. It's about the fact that we have to be careful of things that could be perceived as anti-African or anti-black for people who've been taught, like Brother Malcolm said, who taught you to hate your color of your skin? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the texture of your hair? So we have to be careful about things and all things anti-black and anti-African. I appreciate y'all taking my question, though. Thank you, brothers.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome, my brother.
Thank you. Now, I didn't hear them touch on, and it's also in the chat, National Spokesman in Hadi. In the chat, Brother Lion asked about Dianetics. What does New World Nation of Islam have to say about Dianetics?
Yes, ma'am. True story. When we were in prison, Trenton State Prison, and we were up for parole, and the first time we went, the parole board asked us, they said, they knew I read a lot, so they said, what are you reading now? And being full of fire and rebellious, we said The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Naturally, I got a 3-year hit. The next time I went back to the parole board, as circumstance would have it, we had just finished reading Dianetics by L. Ron Hubbard. When I told them that, they gave me a parole date. The point is, like the brother said, this is a devil. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, and the scientists bear witness, that Islam is the science of everything in life. So now you sell your way of life as cheap to think that you need some kind of supplemental support from an open enemy who means you no good so you can exploit your people, called Dianetics. There is no justification for this, and there is no reasoning behind this other than exploitation or ignorance. We believe exploitation. So this is L. Ron Hubbard and Dianetics. It is another way to rob our people, to keep the blinders on our people's understanding so that they can continue to do as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said they do with everything, commercialize on it.
Wow. Brother Hadi, would you like to add anything to the Dianetics question?
No, ma'am. I think the brother covered that.
All right, fantastic. Also in the chat is someone wants to hear about the big-headed scientist Yakub. Which one of you brothers would like to touch on that?
Specifically, what did they just want to hear? They just wanted to hear the history or the regarding Yaku, because there's a lot
I
about
I,
Yaku.
I
Was there
agree.
something
Let me
specific?
see. It just says, it just said, can we talk about the big head scientist? Brother L, would you like to come up, or is did you have something else to add to that?
And we also had a question in the chat. Someone wanted to know, uh, do we believe that, did you believe that Master Farah Muhammad was a white man?
Mm.
As the brother said, as Hadi said, yes. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in Message to the Black Man on page 19 on to page 20, he said that you have heard of old that God prepared a body, a specially prepared body, talking about Jesus. And he was half and half black, half white, because he had to look like the enemy to get among our people. He had to be half and half because he had to judge the righteous and the unrighteous, or black and white. It says in Romans chapter 8, verse 3, and God shall send his son in the flesh and blood or clothing of the devil. And when you look at Farada 1930, in appearance, he looks white. In hair texture, he looks white. But genetically speaking, we know wherever melanin is involved, when it's a white person, whether it's a sister with a white man or a brother with a white woman, the melanin always dominates in features and in strength. So, in this regard, this is what we have to understand about Master Farad Muhammad. He came in fulfillment of that scripture, wherein he looked like the enemy, but he came for a righteous cause.
Okay, all right. Why follow Islam? Why follow Islam, which is an Arabic religion that enslaved our people, plus is clearly not from God, since God said only our people are prophets, and Muhammad was Arab non-prophet. Did you brothers hear that question right there before I pull somebody up from the stage?
Yes, ma'am. Again, the world has been made to believe that Islam started in the 7th century. What, God was just born in the 7th century? If this is his religion, if this is his nature, if this is the way in which, as the Holy Quran 30 and 30 says, the nature in which he created man, then how did it start in the 7th century? It didn't. It was just reestablished the signs of the Kaaba, of the pilgrimage, and all of the traditions that would preserve our identity until the last day and time. But Islam is not an Arab religion. Islam is directly from God because it is the nature of God. So whenever God began, that's when Islam began. The Arabs do not own Islam. In fact, anyone who is a student of history knows that the Aboriginal Arabs were black, blue black. They are the ones who established the Arabian Peninsula. Everywhere you go, every continent, the Indus Valley with the Indians, everywhere you go, you will see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the black man are signs of the black man. And the black man is God himself. And that is the beginning of Islam, not in the the 7th century when they think that Muhammad established Islam. He just reestablished the signs of Islam, not Islam itself.
All right, thank you for that. We have two people with, we have Derek and Samad with their hands raised. I tried to bring both of you up on stage. You have to accept my request. Um, so with that, I will move on to the next question. Mr. Keith Hill, are you with us? Are you able to unmute your microphone? Have you figured out how to do that yet? Okay, I guess not. So with that, I'll move on to we got one up now. We have a question from Derek Bush. Mr. Bush, what is your question for our guest speakers, the major scientists of Elijah Muhammad's teachings in the New World Nation of Islam? Go right ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay, I guess he can't unmute himself either. So with that said, we'll move on to my next question. Now, is it true that the honorable, okay, first let's talk about the 10,000 fearless soldiers. What did the honorable Elijah Muhammad mean when he made a call for 10,000 fearless soldiers?
Yes, ma'am. In 1958, the Ku Klux Klan threatened the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad sent out a call throughout the nation that he needs 10,000 fearless FOI. And nobody stood up. Nobody. But Brother Farad Savior, Belton Williams, Ali Mahdi Muhammad, Albert Dickens, and those brothers with them who were part of the first combat group of the Nation of Islam. This is when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the FOI has failed me. This is where that 10,000 comes in.
Thank you for answering that question. Also, is it true that Elijah Muhammad said, it's time, I need some more ministers, I need some brothers to go back into the prison to raise some more good ministers? Is it true that those original brothers of Temple number 25 robbed banks like Robin Hood to take from the rich and give to the poor, to the Nation of Islam? Is that fact or fiction?
That is fact. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Farad Savior, Ali Mahdi Muhammad, they would have suitcases full of money, poor rate, for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said during a sneak visit to Temple number 7 in 1959, he was on his way to Mecca. And he said, don't worry about a job. Work for Allah. If you're going to rob, rob the robber. And this is what brought on the soldiering. Those on the front line fighting in the name of Allah for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This is what that represents.
Okay, so the Bible says, do not steal. So, with the brothers robbing banks, taking money to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, how do you explain the Bible's reference of do not steal?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, you can do no wrong to the devil. He said, if you're going to rob, rob the robber. We were robbed by them long before we robbed them back.
All right, thank you for that. My next question comes for the New World Nation of Islam and the First Academy of Islam. From my research, I learned that the New World of Islam brothers in the prison, Trenton State Prison, you had set up a training ground for the brothers where you raised and trained lieutenants, captains, ministers. You brothers not only just say you were Muslims, like a lot of people, especially in the prison, they say they Muslim, but when the lights go out, they, eating some pork and doing all types of other stuff. But you brothers, and the history shows, you brothers took this academy and you trained. You read all of Elijah Muhammad's books. Not only did you read the columns, you would memorize them and recite them. You would study the lessons. You were the first to practice how to eat to live, meaning eating one meal a day, eating one meal every other day, fasting, dry fasting, 3, 4, 7 days, praying 5 times a day and twice at night. Is that, confirm that for me, good brothers?
Peace, peace. Brother Spokesman, before you speak on this, I just want to say a little something on this.
Yes, sir.
Uh, we must make the point that our leader and teacher emphasizes. We are the tribe of Shabazz. It was the harsh environment of East Asia or Africa that shaped the Shabazian into the toughest and hardest and the wisest of all Muslims. In 1958, while speaking in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when he spoke at Temple Number 7 in New York, and he made the statement, among others, it looks like Elijah is going to have to go back into the prison and raise some more good ministers. Well, into the New World Nation of Islam, as the spokesman just mentioned, the first and only combat ready soldiers of the Most Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad to go behind enemy lines, give up their freedom, what we call freedom, and establish the elite training grounds for the future FOI trained by Master Farad Muhammad himself. And when you read Our Savior Has Arrived, page 184, where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in there, in the very first paragraph, he speaks of how Allah being present among us now, teaching and training his people right in the midst of this evil world. So he points out that this is taking place the whole time. So we just wanted to mention that part in passing.
Thank you, sir. Brother Spokesman, do you want to continue?
Yes, ma'am. We just want to state clearly that we did not establish the first Academy of Islam. It was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. As the brother that said, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, I think it's time for Elijah to go back to prison and raise some more good ministers. He set up the program. He was the one who got Farad Savior into the prison house when he said he don't want to be a regular minister. He want to be a minister that goes into the prison houses. And he always made sure that the instructions were given when both Ali Mahdi Mohammed, Albert Dickens, and Farad Savior, Belton Williams, were present, so that each knew each orders in the program. And when they got to prison, these were the orders sent down by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to establish in the prison houses. So it was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad through Farad Savior and Ali Mahdi Muhammad that the first Academy of Islam was established. It was established on such a high order of tradition and honor that News Week and Time Magazine said that this is the elite training grounds, Trenton State Prison, for the elite forces of the FOI. That's how that came about.
Wow, that is some history. Mr. Keith Hill, are you able to unmute your microphone? All righty, I guess not. And I invited three other brothers up, but they didn't come up. Hold on one second. Okay, the brother is back, but brother, you asked a question about Yaqub. That is like the brother said, that is a very broad question. You want to know about Yaqub, the big-headed scientist. They said, what in particular? If you don't want to come up on the stage, drop it in the chat. What particular history do you want to talk about the big-headed scientist Yaqub? All right, we have brother Samad up on the stage, and he has a question. Samad, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear.
Praise be to Allah Muhammad. This is not a question, but I wanted to speak on a question that you had asked about uh, the New World 17, or those who was gone, those who went to prison at that particular time. Do you can you repeat that question about the Muslim gangsters?
Yes, sir. My question was the New World 17, when it went to trial, they didn't participate in the trial because the government was trying to charge the Nation of Islam with being a crime organization and not a religious organization. And the leader of the New World Nation of Islam, he said no can do. He wasn't having it. So, as a matter of fact, sir, I think you were on that trial with the New World 17. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Go ahead and state what you would like to say, sir.
All right, praise be to Allah Muhammad. First of all, we're going to look at the word gang. They charged us with being gangsters. Gang comes from the Old English language, mean gang or going, which in 1620 it had a positive overtone to it, in which it meant a company or group of workmen. But 10 years later, by 1630, the word gang started being used with a negative overtone, which 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 stated which started with them in their lynching our people. Uh, 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 the Rough Riders used to run through our neighborhoods and rape our women and kill us. Gang started by them. That's what I'm saying. And we know that they charged Honorable Elijah Muhammad with everything. But I never heard them say that he was a gang or that he raised gangs. Our father went to school uh, in 1942 and was charged with sedition. That charge was dropped, and then they later convicted our father, which he served 5 years um, for telling his followers to evade the draft. In 1981, the government scooped up 19 members of the New World Nation of Islam. Two of them went with the feds. So they ended up convicting 17 Muslims in their courts. It took seven. It took 7 days with untold testimonies on their side. We didn't put on no defense. We were told not to put on no defense. And in fact, we wasn't told not to put on. Our leading teacher, Ali Mahdi Muhammad, said that he wasn't putting on no defense. And the reason why he said he wasn't putting on defense was because they was putting our religion on trial. They wasn't trying us as individuals who committed certain crimes, because each of us had different crimes. I was charged with some banks, other brothers were charged with other banks. Some brothers had murders in the commission of robberies, other brothers didn't, but they tried to scoop us up by putting the RICO count on us, which means racketeering, corrupt organization. So they put that on us so that they could lump us all as Muslims as being gangsters. So by us not, and we agreed with Brother Muhammad, we didn't have to go that way. We could have went home. But we agreed with Brother Muhammad and we stayed with him and we put no defense. We had 17 lawyers and we muted them in court. We told them, don't represent us, don't say nothing. Every time break would come, they would run up to the cell and say, "You got to take these handcuffs off of us. They getting ready uh, uh, give you a boatload of time, and you'll never see the streets again." But we never did break. The judge said, he said, never in his life have he seen such followers who would dedicate their lives just for a promise of heaven. He said that we reminded him of the old man in the mountain who raised young executioners for the promise of heaven. We did not put on any defense in our trial, because if we did, we would have agreed with the system in saying that we were all Muslims. So by us not putting on any defense in our trial, we just said, before you put our religion on trial, before you put the Honorable Elijah Muhammad on trial, before you put any Muslim on trial, you can take us out in the morning and shoot us. And that's exactly what they did. and they gave everybody
Wow.
25 years.
Wow.
When the judge said, he said, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna give everybody 25 years. The prosecutor jumped 10 feet in the air talking about, Your Honor, what are you talking about? The crime far exceed 25 years. He said, Sit down, Mr. Prosecutor. Sit down. I'm the judge over this trial. He said, the most I can give them is 25 years, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to run that 25 years separate from any other state time that they do, and order them to be separated throughout the federal prison system, so that we would never see one another during our bid. And that's what he did. But we did not put on a defense in our trial, because if we did, we would have agreed with them that every Muslim was gangsters and murderers and robbers. Peace, peace.
Wow. So y'all wasn't having it, so that's why you sat through the trial in silence. And you said it started out 19, but two that you said the two turned state's evidence, and then the 17 of you took it to trial, correct?
Correct.
And separated in the federal prison systems throughout the country. So that means one person went to Leavenworth, one person went to Memphis, one person went to Farrington, one person, you mean like that?
Yes, the judge said that no one is safe, no prisoner is safe with with more than one of us, and
And
so
why
they
did he say that? Why? What did he mean by that?
because he knew that once we get in there, or once we got in there, especially if you had more than one, we was going to proselytize our faith.
Gotcha. Now, 17 brothers getting 25 years, and I'm sure you all had wives and children. So, did the sisters hang in with y'all? Did they do that 25 years with y'all? Or, what happened with the sisters? I want to show the strength of the sisters.
Well, the sisters, the few sisters that hung in there, most of our wives left us. You
Wow.
know, I know mine's left me within the first 6 months.
Oh, man.
She said, how much time did you get? And I said, 25 years. She said, well, how much time you going to do? I said, probably about a year, because I didn't believe I was going to be locked up 25 years. You see, until I started seeing the budding of the trees after about 2 or 3 years, I knew that I was in there for the long ride. So what I did, I dedicate myself to the law library and try to turn over, because they made so many mistakes in our case that there is some things there even right now that we can go back to court on. But there was only a few sisters out of that 17 brothers that hung in there and is still hanging in there today, and you are one of them.
Thank you for that, my good brother Samad, for that history. Again, this is Street Talk with Wahida Clark. I am also the official queen of street literature, and we are talking with Elijah Muhammad, New World Nation of Islam, some of their core members. We got the national spokesman, we got the brother Hadi Ali. Samad, sir, can you state your full name, your rank, and how long have you been a believer in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? And did you ever turn back to go back into the dead world, or back to Orthodox Islam, or back to 5% Nation? Could you please state your name and your rank, and how long you've been a believer in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Yes, my name is Samad Ali. I am Field Major Samad Ali. I've been on the scene for 48 years,
Mhm.
and once I stood up, I never let go.
Amazing. Amazing. And thank you for sharing that. Okay, now we're going to go to the next person in line was Brother Derek. Then we'll go to Brother Yah, and we'll try to unmute Brother Keith again. Brother Derek, do you have a question for our panelists? We are talking to the major scientists of the new Honorable Elijah Muhammad's New World Nation of Islam. Do you have a question, Brother Derek?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah and Muhammad. I actually have two questions because it changed a little bit. But my first question is about, when people ask me, what kind of Muslim am I? And I explained that I am a Elijah Muslim. And then they asked me, what does that mean? And I tried to explain that I worship the salvation of the so-called Negro and lost in the wilderness of North America. So why is it so hard for our people to get on board, to understand this? The greatest strength of unity, I believe, was from slavery into the late 1960s. What happened to our unity? That's question number one. Question number two is that I understand that the New World Nation of Islam had to do what they had to do to survive. Now, knowing that fact, being publicly known, pardon me, okay, I lost myself. Um, the truth, does this truth, in fact, affect the
I'm
indoctrination?
sorry, brother Derek. I think you're in the matrix right now. I can't really hear you. You're fading in and out. Your connection is kind of bad right now. Wahida, you're muted.
Okay. Did you get at least one part of his question because he was in the matrix? Did the brother spokesman or Hadid? Did you get the first part of his question?
No, ma'am, not really.
Okay. What about you, Hadid?
No, I was trying to. I was trying to get it, but I couldn't really pick it up.
All right.
I thought he was asking the difference between the Elijah Muslims and the I guess general Muslims. I believe that was his question.
I
Because
couldn't
he
get.
was saying he's an Elijah Muslim, and when he talked to other Muslims, and that's when I lost him. So I was
Yeah, maybe
thinking
he'll
he was
get
a
back. Or type it in the
comparison.
chat, brother Derek. Type your question in the chat, sir. Okay, and we'll move on to the next brother. Hopefully, Keith can unmute himself. Brother Yah, do you have a question for our staff, our guests? I'm sorry, the moderators, the guests.
Oh, yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you, sir.
Okay, perfect. Well, I had a first question before I could ask the actual one. Do you guys accept Hadith and stuff, or do you guys not accept Hadith?
Can you say that again, my brother?
Well, I wanted to ask before I ask my actual question, because the main question I want to get to is like why you guys wouldn't take the Bible as inspired and true. But before that, I want to ask if you accept Hadith,
Yes, sir.
like Al Bukhari or whatever.
Hadith and Sunnah. We don't reject the Bible. The Bible originally is a divine revelation, but as we know and history bears witness, that once the white man got his hands on it, he began to dilute it, to tamper with it, and to add to and take from it. So now it is what is called by God himself a poison book. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the Bible has truth, plenty of it, if you understand. And that's our stance.
Well, but what about in the Quran? Because like the Bible is just a collection of books, and in the Quran it's saying that I posted a couple verses. Let me actually get the verse.
Mhm.
Hold on. So in the Quran, where did it go? Oh, in Quran 6. Oh no, in Quran 43:45, it's telling Muhammad that he could consult the believers of the previous messages. So, and this is at the life of Muhammad. So I'm saying at least at the lifetime of Muhammad, it seems like the manuscripts would have been correct. And we have manuscripts that are older than that. So I'm saying that now in 2022, if we know that the stuff from Muhammad's lifetime was correct and we have older stuff, we could pretty much confirm it hasn't been changed. And then also we know from the Quran that the Quran is considering the Torah and the Injil as the words of Allah, and it says that no one can change the words of Allah. You see what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
like to say that it's been corrupted would almost be to say that someone changed God's words when he said no one can. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yes, absolutely. And once European power began to gain conquest around the planet, the first thing they colonized, as Dr. John Henry Clark points out, and Christopher Columbus in the African Holocaust, he points out that the first thing that they began to do, especially between the 15th and the 17th centuries, they began to colonize information. And the most important information of colonization was the image of God. Once they were able to colonize the image of God, they were able to alter the word of God. And we've been suffering in ignorance ever since.
But I'm saying if the Quran says the word can't be changed ever, and that was written like 1400 years ago before the colonization, why would you take the Quran as true if you're saying historically we see that it was falsified, that it did get changed? You know what I mean? Like, they can't both be true. You know what I'm saying?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the Bible verifies the Holy Quran, and the Holy Quran verifies the Bible. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad also points out that the revelation or revealing of the Holy Quran was for the purpose of supplanting or uprooting the Trinity. It is truth in both, and they're confirmation of each other. But we also understand that man, not being perfect, once he gets his hands on anything, then it's a matter of interpretation. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the wrong interpretation. The Holy Quran is true. It is true today as it was 1400 years ago. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad made it clear that we must understand the signs as they relate to us today and not 1400 years ago. It's like us saying that we believe in Jesus 2000 years ago and we want to model our lives the way it was 2000 years ago. It serves no purpose, it's unproductive, and it is something that will give no value to anyone because you're 2000 years in the past.
Well, on one of the things you said, brother, what
Mhm.
I'm trying to point out is the Bible could never complement the Quran and vice versa because the books are diametrically opposed. When we read each book, the claims that each book makes, like from my view, it's clearly two different gods because they make different claims about themselves. For example, in the Quran, Allah can never have Allah can't even enter into creation. You see what I'm saying? But in the Bible, the God of the book does it all the time. They can't confirm each other. That's what I'm trying to say. The Bible would contradict the Quran.
Well, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, both of these books come from us. Both of these books originally are of and from God. These two books, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, takes us up to the here and now called the judgment. And he also made it clear that it only brings us up to the door and not into the hereafter. So however we look at it, however we configure it,
Do you think
it
Muhammad
is
was black like we are, brother? Because it's a different tribe. Like, I don't think he was a black man like us, right?
the Honorable Elijah Muhammad points out that Prophet Muhammad of 1400 years ago was a white man. That's in the Semitic sense,
Yeah.
the mixing, the dilution. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad makes it also clear that he was a member of the black nation. So, see, that's that nuance of difference in definition. Well, white, when you say white, you're thinking like a coat of white paint, that this is white by definition of the world. But there are other entries into the defining of whiteness, and that whiteness, in this sense, is the mixing, which caused them to produce what they call today the Semitic Arabs or the mixed Arab, which they call white Arabs in that regard.
Right. Thank you, Brother Yah, for your questions. Now we have a female, Miss Sister Hadia.
Yes, ma'am.
Go. What's your question, please?
Praise be to Allah Muhammad. My question is, it is two parts. Um, the first part is who can join the New World of Islam? People who do not classify themselves as black or white, can they join the New World Nation of Islam?
Can you say that again? Who do not classify themselves?
Yeah, they're not black nor white. And many times I've heard our father, the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, refer to those people as our half brothers and sisters. We're related to all people except the white man. So, any people who are not black nor white, are they allowed to join the New World Nation of Islam, or is it strictly black only?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the number of the black man is made up of the black, brown, yellow, and red people. So that is the sum total of the black nation. And any of them can stand up for Allah and the person of Master Farad Muhammad.
Okay. And my other part is, I've heard a saying of, it's not what you did, but what you're doing now. What is the New World Nation of Islam doing now for the upliftment of the black man and woman here in the wilderness of North America?
We're using every vehicle, every opportunity, every avenue of access to our people to teach those who want to hear the life giving teachings and the life saving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We are duty bound to do this. We are duty bound at the cost of our lives to see to it that the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gets out to every man, woman, and child here in the wilderness of North America before we make our march around the planet with his teachings.
Is that you? Did I answer your question?
I'm trying to,
Sister Cynthia?
yes,
Mm,
yes. Thank you very much for your answers. It's
Yes, ma'am.
crystal clear. Thank you.
thank
And
Yes, ma'am.
you.
Wahida, I had two questions, if it's possible.
Go right ahead, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, a while back, there was a documentary, Untold FBI Stories, and they actually did a segment on the New World Nation of Islam, and they called it Bank Robbing School. And inside, and if I'm looking for the documentary right now, but if when you watch it, they actually depicted the 17 brothers in the classroom setting with a blackboard, and they were running plays about how to rob a bank and the fundamentals of robbing the bank. Now, this was all reenacted in FBI Untold Stories. Now, I need to know from the brothers who were actually there, is this actually true? Were you guys really in there with a blackboard and your pencil and papers out, um, planning on how you're going to rob the bank and give the money to Elijah Muhammad?
There was a
I just brought. I'm sorry, brother spokesman. I just brought up hopefully two brothers, well, three brothers who was a part of that New World 17 and the bank robbers school of FBI Untold Stories. I don't know if they'll be able to get up on the stage or not, but go ahead, spokesman.
the Honorable Elijah Muhammad makes it clear that the white race are arch deceivers, masters of tricknology. So naturally, when they say reenactment, it's a reenactment that we have no parts in acting. They are the ones who conceptualize this. Well, how do we present them as being the worst that we can present them? Truth, fact, justice need not apply. All they want to do is paint us as devoting ourselves, as giving our minds and our creative abilities over to the commissioning of crimes. So naturally, that on its face is falsehood, but our people being fearful of the white man, they accept what he says without even sniffing at it to see if there's any truth to it.
Thank you for that. And the second part to that question was the brother Samad. He spoke on the New World 17 being charged with the RICO Act. Now, recently in the news, we see they've been the rappers Young Thug and Gunna is also being charged with RICO, or they're trying to charge them with the RICO Act for drugs or whatever that case may be. However, it just brought to my attention that haven't recalled them charging the Ku Klux Klan with the RICO Act. What is your take on that?
If you notice, every time there's a mass shooting, Every time one of these white boys goes and kills up dozens of people, the first thing that the media says is that they have mental issues. The first thing the media says is they have emotional problems. They never say that this was an act of racism. They never say that this was an act of a white supremacist, because they control the narrative, as they say. They control the status quo. But now they see that they have to make some sacrifices with this January 6th committee. This is only for the purpose of sacrificing some of their own so that they can give a full measure of the evil that they want to give us by painting us and representing us as homegrown terrorists.
Did that answer your question?
Wahida.
Which Wahida, sir?
You. I just want that. I guess you both can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Um, I just wanted to add that I just had a conversation about 2 weeks ago with Brother Kareem, Mr. Fred Pittman, who was a teacher at Peshon Avenue School, in which that was based on, where they were saying that he was using his classroom as the recruiting station and the planning of all of these robberies. And as the brother said, this never happened. Let's be clear. We are refugees. We're soldiers. We're strangers in a strange land. When we went out in the name of Allah and Muhammad to fight the devil, a lot of times it was definitely out of necessity. It was a struggle when you have become an independent nation. It means that your family is Christian. It means your family turns on you. It means that you're in the school system and you're debating or disputing what they're teaching you. So the system turns against you. And so when we would go out to do any work, it wasn't like we had time to go through some sort of planning stage sometimes. That was rare. Yes, sometimes, like anybody, we get a chance to case a place, but let's be clear. We were like Robin Hood and his merry men, or anybody who was out in the field fighting. We did it out of necessity, and when we acted, we had to act oftentimes in the immediate. So all of that planning stuff and making it, sensationalizing it, really didn't happen that way.
Thank you for sharing that. Uh, and I'm gonna take one more question for the audience before I go to Mr. Keith Hill. If we can't unmute him, then we will be ending this session. One question from the or comment from the chat is from Brother Kilo. He said, "An Elijah Muslim is an Allah Muslim." I tried to bring him on the stage so he can explain that question. Do you guys understand? You brothers understand what is he asking or what is his statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Go right
If he's
ahead, sir.
saying that an Elijah Muslim is an Allah Muslim, that's true. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says on page 56 of Our Savior Has Arrived, he says, when you say God, that means Allah, and that is all of us. We all are Allahs, but the supreme Allah has a name of his own, Farad Muhammad. So all he is saying is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. Elijah Muslims are those who submit to the true and living God. He who was dead but is alive, he who was alive but is dead but is alive forevermore. He who sits on the throne that lives forever. So an Elijah Muslim is one who reflects that. He is one, or she is one, who worships the true and living God, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who raises, who teaches, who trains, who makes holy, and commissions a Savior for us. So an Elijah Muslim is one who follows our God, Elijah, and the Savior that he gave us in Master Farad Muhammad.
All right. I hope that answers your question or confirms your comment, Brother Kilo. Brother Keith Hill, also Wazir Ali. Are you able to unmute yourself, sir?
No, I'm sorry. Wahida Keith is still having phone issues, so he won't be able to chat with us tonight.
Okay, not a problem. We was looking forward to him because he was in what was called the Battle of the Knives. Now it was they was in Trenton State Prison, and the Muslims at that time We had the New World of Islam, the followers of Elijah, and we have Imam Warif Deen Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's son, who left the nation and set up his own sect called Balalians. So they, along with the administration of Trenton State Prison, plotted and put together a scheme to kill the New World Nation of Islam Muslims. So it was called the Battle of the Knives. And the brother Keith, he was actually there. He was one of the brothers. I don't know if he got stabbed or anything, but he was actually there when it happened. So we was hoping to hear him tell the account of that. And with that, I'll close out with one question regarding the Orthodox Islam. Hold on one second. Now, in the book Message to the Black Man, the chapter Misunderstanding and Misinterpretation, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad addresses Orthodox Islam. This is a two-part loaded question. Why does the black man and woman here in America flock to this form of Islam? And why does the New World Nation of Islam teach against merging or taking on the practices of Orthodox Islam?
Yes, ma'am. The Holy Quran teaches us that every prophet came with an Islam for his people to serve their condition, their circumstances, their needs, everything that they needed to be pulled out of their condition, which was not one that was progressive, not one that was based on the best of civilization and society. This is why they flocked to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because as Dr. John Henry Clark pointed out, he said if Elijah Muhammad had come with any other brand of Islam other than what he came with, he would have been lucky to get 400 or 500 followers. This is why we don't unite with Orthodox Islam. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said there is a new Islam coming in, a new us coming in, a new government coming in, a new world coming in. So therefore, they have to unite with us. We're not going to go back 1400 years when we're in the 21st century, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teachings are the most cutting edge, advanced, and progressive teachings of all spiritual teachings, in this case called Islam.
All right. And I misspoke because I have one more question. One more question before we will close out officially. You can't mention Minister Farrakhan without bringing up the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's Theology of Time lecture, dated July 30th, 1972. Now, his followers teach often that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in that lecture, everywhere you hear him, listen to him. Everywhere you see him, look at him. Everywhere he advises you to go, go. Everywhere he advises you to stay, stay from. End of quote. But they ignore the statement right after that. Well, I don't know if they ignore it, but I just never hear anyone saying it. The statement right after that, the next sentence says, as long as his preaching is a bearing of witness to me and what God has given to me. Why is that statement ignored, and why does the New World Nation of Islam feel that the Minister Farrakhan doesn't bear witness to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? Is it because he turned the nation towards Orthodox Islam? Please expound on that.
This statement is one of their strongholds. As the sister said, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad made it clear that wherever you see him, look at him. Wherever he say go, go. Wherever he says don't go, don't go. But he makes it clear after this in big bold-faced print, as long as his preachings are bearing a witness to me and what God has given me. Now, how in the world can you bear witness that he's upholding the Honorable Elijah Muhammad when all you have to do is go on YouTube and he's there saying that he never believed, or he don't believe, that Master Farad Muhammad is God. He also says he don't believe that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the messenger. When he went on Gil Nobles, like it is, in 1975, after our father passed, he said, this is what Farrakhan said. He said Wallace, talking about Wallace Muhammad. He said Wallace is a great man. If Elijah Muhammad was alive today, he would be a follower of Wallace. In fact, Elijah can't tie the shoelaces of Wallace. It takes a great man to tell the truth, regardless. And Wallace told the truth on his follower. Everybody knows that Wallace was a known hypocrite, a identifiable disbeliever by self-admission. And now all of a sudden he's a divine man and you go to bed with him. That's hypocrisy of the first order. He turned and looked at Ali Mahdi Muhammad twice and said, if I turn my back on the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad again, you can take my head. So he is a hypocrite. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in his divine sayings, he said, in telling the truth, don't ever tell the truth and then turn around and nullify it to suit the hearer. That's what he has done.
All righty then. All righty then. I see Brother Lonnie up on the stage. Do you have a question or do you have Brother Keith with you? Unmute yourself, Brother Lonnie. And okay, since Brother Lonnie can't unmute himself, let me go back to the national spokesman back on Farrakhan. Now, Farrakhan, so the leader and teacher of the New World, mute yourself for a minute, Lonnie. The leader and teacher of the New World Nation of Islam is Ali Mahdi Muhammad. He wrote the book, the Al-Farad. Now, in my research, I saw that the Al-Farad, Minister Farrakhan was ordered by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to teach from out that book. Can you explain that, please?
Yes, ma'am. Al-Farad by Ali Mahdi Muhammad speaks to, as Brother Hadi spoke, Message to the Black Man, page 141, about the Mahdi, picking a name for himself corresponding with the time of his coming, which is Farad, or the dawn, or the early morning. This book by Ali Mahdi Muhammad is comprised of three particular sections. Who is Allah, who is the messenger, and who are the disciples? This is a book that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad sanctioned divine. And he told Farrakhan to teach from it. This is when he taught Wonderful Counselor. And his credibility, his recognition went up exponentially by teaching this. But he never acknowledges where it came from. And that's the Al-Farad and the history behind him and how he got his hands on it.
So the Minister Farrakhan is well aware of Ali Mahdi Muhammad, the brother that was commissioned by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as the field captain, field supreme captain in charge of Muslims wherever he goes. So they have met before. They are well aware of each other. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that piece of history. And that is in the book, The Al-Farad. You can get that off of Amazon by A.M. Muhammad. I am Wahida Clark, the official queen. Okay, she just Wahida Jr. just put it up in the up at the top, the Al-Farad, the Dawn by Ali Mahdi Muhammad. Also, this is the new book is out, Elijah Muhammad's New World Nation of Islam, also available on Amazon as well as NWNOY.org. Feel free to learn more, pick up those books, because what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, his teachings in this day and time is our life and our death, worth our life and our death. And last but not least, Brother Lonnie, you have a question or do you have Mr. Keith Hill with you?
Mr. Keith Hill is here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, my good brother.
Praise be to Allah Muhammad.
We'll welcome Mr. Keith Hill. I was explaining to the audience that the Battle of the Knives that took place in Trenton State Prison, and the reason that Wallace Dean, also known as Imam Warif's Dean's followers at that time, they were called Bilalians. They, along with the administration, I heard Brother Al Chavi say the administration was in on their plot to kill the New World Nation of Islam brothers right there in Trenton State Prison. Is that fact or fiction? And you were there, sir?
Yes, that is definitely a fact. You had three temples or mosques at that time that were involved that had men that were members of the mosque. The Philadelphia Mosque, which is number 12, Mosque number 44, which was in Trenton, and Mosque number 25, which is in Newark, New Jersey. And they had a cross section of other secondary temples in there also, of those that were locked up. Um, and we were involved in the Battle of the Knives. We were definitely stabbed and have some lifelong injuries as a result of that. But it started at about approximately 9:05, October the 16th, 1975. It was in the morning, and we went to our norm out of our wing, which was 7 right at that time. So we went from 7 right down to the Donald Bourne School. When we first went in there, we went to the Black Studies office. At that time, we were talking with Brother Raymond Dozier. Um, at that time, his attribute is Rahman. And the atmosphere, very tight, as you say, very tight and very thick. You could feel the tension between the two Muslim groups. The Nation of Islam at that time was known as the World Community of Al Islam in the West. They had changed the name and have changed all of the temples to mosques. And to go back to the Black Studies office, Raymond Dozier and myself, or Brother Rahman, who may Allah be pleased with him, he was a major or a minister at that time. Um, at the time of his resignation as the national security, he was a field major at that time. Me and him were in the room fixing a cup of coffee. Then we heard a big boom, and vaguely you heard someone say, "Kill the new world of Islam," and then you heard glass splatter, and you heard chairs. You heard a whole bunch of people rumbling. At that time, Brother Rahman and myself went out the door at the same time. He pushed me back in, and I grabbed a big pin. At that time, he was fighting folks as soon as he came out the room. As soon as came out the room, I got hit on the side, on my right side, with a chair, one of those chair desks, uh, um, all in one. After I got hit, I moved with it, and I picked up my ink pen and started jumping on a brother named Mark Jones, who was stabbing Minister Abdul. His slave name is Cleophas, and he was stabbing him. So I jumped on him and started stabbing him with my ink pen. As I was stabbing him, I was getting stabbed in my back, my arm, my hands, all over with ice picks. The people that came to me, they had ice picks, so I was getting ice picks getting stuck in me. When you first get stabbed, it wasn't hurting at first. It was only hurting when they took the thing out. But by that time, we were just fighting and going in motion. I can't say that I can't say that I wasn't afraid. I was afraid. I was so scared I wasn't scared no more. If you ever saw a Bruce Lee movie, and I think it was Enter the Dragon, at the end where they told him to come out and surrender, and he just charged. That was our feeling at that point, you know. And as we were fighting, I saw my cousin James Coy through the waiting room. There was about four brothers on them. They were stabbing him, but they were also missing and stabbing themselves. That was another thing that was going on. As they was trying to stab me, they were
Oh my
stabbing
God.
themselves. That's how much was going on, and you could smell the blood. As I was going into the waiting room to help him, Ben Walton was on the floor, like in a sitting down position, and he had um, the rod of the those drawers, the index drawers. You know those little screws that you had? Well, that was sharpened into a knife. It was about maybe 16 inches long. And that was sticking right through Ben's body. You could see the small part sticking in the top, but the other part was sticking through. When I seen him, I thought he was dead. By the time they were working on my cousin, and I was going on. Then I was still fighting two folks. They were trying to deliver what you saw called a kill shot, and I just had my hand and I was looking at it, and I was fighting that there till Raymond Dozier came and hit the brother in the back. By then, we had fought the brothers off of James Coy, and we were starting to take him to the hospital. When we went, when Raymond Dozier came out the door, he pointed down at Al Chavis, which was at the end of the stairway because they were upstairs. Also, we didn't know that. We, but you could see the blood trail all coming from down the steps. I could see Al Chavis or Field Major Amin's skull. That's how big the cut was. I could see his skull. There was no blood there. It was nothing more than just white. It was like a white layer. That's what I saw. And um,
Mm, mm,
when I went to him, I went to feel his pulse to see if he was still alive, and I felt he was still alive. So I yelled down to Raymond or Rockman, he's still alive. So he went to help James Coy, Aziz, my cousin at that time, to walk him to the hospital or the infirmary, as they called it. And I grabbed Cleophas's arm, and Danny Brewer, Lonnie Mack, myself, and somebody else was carrying Cleophas or Abdul to the infirmary. When we got down to the infirmary and we took Abdul down, they said we got an ambulance on the way. They got people coming. So we started to give him mouth to mouth resuscitation. When I gave him the mouth to mouth resuscitation, and I turned his head to the side, blood came and touched my lips and stuff, and I began to pump to see where the injury was at, and it was a big gap down between his label, his navel, and his private parts,
mm.
and there was blood coming out there. At that time, when I got up, the doctor said, the ambulance here. They put him on the ambulance thing. Raymond Dozier began to stagger a little bit because I think he had a concussion or something because he had cuts all over his body. Our clothes were all bloodied up, and the thing about it is, I sneezed, and when I sneezed, blood came out, and I could taste like rust or iron in my mouth, and it was coming through my nose. And the doctor said, your lungs are been pierced. That's what's happening. Sit down for a moment. At the time, there was a dentist that was trying to take care of Lamont Calloway's cut, which was shooting blood out by his temple. And he said, you got to come here. Just put your finger here. Put your hand here. So he pulled it. Actually had the vein, and he pulled it out, and he told me to clamp that there while they fix and cauterize. They had a almost like a little torch where they had to put some flame, and that's how they fixed that particular cut. So he has a burn or a line on the side of his skull that'll probably be there for the rest of his life. But they fixed it right there with my finger there. After that, they the dentist used the thing that they stick in your mouth to suck your blood. He straightened it out, and he stuck his finger in a glob of some blue stuff and stuck it all in my throat. And he said, "Don't worry." I'm like, what are you doing?" He said, "Don't worry about it. Open your mouth. Keep your mouth open." And he sucked the thing, and it was sucking the blood out of like my esophagus in the area that was filling up. And that went on for about maybe 5 minutes or so till I decided, to pull it out to see what was going on. Then I went
And,
to a brother named Danny Brewer, who they were trying to get him. I told him, we can hide over here. We can go over here. By then, everybody was being taken care of, and we had to find a way out of here. So at that point, we went to this little desk area that was blocked off. How foolish it was because we were leaving a trail of blood, but that was in the moment or at the heat of that moment. After that, they came and followed the blood and came and got us and took care of us. They locked us in the infirmary. And then maybe 4 hours from that time, in the early evening, I was called to Mr. Hoffman's office. And Mr. Hoffman said, well, Mr. Hill, There's only one of you right now. I should be calling you brother minister. So I said, yes, sir. He said, how many brothers do you have now? I said, I don't know. I need to, excuse me. So I explained to him how many brothers were left. And he said, well, you're going back to the room building. So you might as well count your wounded, get them taken care of. And I'll let you go to them and let them know that that everybody's on their way back to the room building.
And
I
this
like that.
attack, and this attack, sir, the police was no officers were nowhere around while the brothers were being attacked.
Matter of fact, you were absolutely correct. It's like the same situation that when they said the government was involved in the assassination of Malcolm X, and there was no officers, no suited, no
Mm-hmm.
undercover, nobody was in there. Same thing there. In fact, in retrospect, two of the teachers that were supposed to be there, they didn't come in.
Wow.
The Black Studies teachers, they didn't come in. Mr. Brown and Mr. Gibson, they didn't come in. And so, after we got to the room building, the ones that were in the room building was Lamont Calloway, Richard Lawton. Now, Richard Lawton was not involved in the Battle of the Knives because he was a barber on the other side of the jail at that time. So he wasn't aware. They just locked the jail down, and when the jail was cleared and stuff, they brought him back in the lockup, a couple of cells or a couple of wings from where we were at.
And I've got to interrupt you. So, how many New World Muslim was versus the other Muslims from Temple number Philadelphia Temple? The
Ten.
yes.
It was
That.
about it was about 150 of them, and it wasn't even 10 of us.
Oh my gosh. So these were why were these Muslims bent on killing you New World brothers? What was the reason why?
The beef or the disagreement goes back into the 1960s at the commission of Belton Williams, Brother Farad Savior, and the commission of Val Dickens, Ali Mahdi Muhammad, back in 1960. Um, they had a job to do in the field, and they were doing their job, and resentment from both sides existed, you know, um, antagonistic, if you will, from both sides. And that
Wow.
that same beef, that same disagreement was carried on that side. Our belief was that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was more than a messenger. In fact, he was Allah himself, because in Message to the Black Man, Victory of the Apostle, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that Allah and the messenger in the last day will be as one person. When you see one, you see the other. So they are as one. So that was our understanding. That was our take. That was our belief. That was our identity as Elijah Muslims. So um, and
And
some of
and,
them
and,
were
and
attacking us.
also,
They didn't even know why they were attacking us. You know.
okay, we got a good question in the chat because this is what I heard as well. So they definitely had a beef with y'all because they wanted you to believe like them that Elijah Muhammad was just a messenger, but y'all said no, he was Almighty God Allah. So Kilo One, we have two questions, one from Kilo One and one for Gina Woods. Kilo One asked, did that attack occur because of the New World being accused of James Shabazz death, or did Wallace followers do that because the New World wouldn't fall in under his leadership?
Oh wow, that's a whole new dispensation of truth there, with James Shabazz's case, because I was a co-defendant in that. In fact, that was like retaliation. Murderer of a Muslim. You get one of ours, we get one of yours. Um, so yeah, that was definitely the situation with that. I'd like to also add that in 1973, it was that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and we have to track down the radio announcement, um, that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Allah has forgiven those brothers that was locked up, because at that time, all of the brothers had to write a letter to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They had to write a report. And every brother that was involved in that case had to give their name, rank, and their field rank out to Chicago to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and explain that Shabazz case. My aunt and my father took those letters personally over to New York to Minister Farrakhan. He gave every brother a signed receipt that he received those letters to go out to Chicago. He got on the radio and said, brothers, you brothers in the county, Essex County Jail in Newark, New Jersey, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the messenger, has received your letters and it will give you an answer in the near future. A couple of weeks later, I won't say a couple of weeks, I'll say a couple of months later, the announcement was that Allah forgives us. You brothers, Allah forgives us. So whatever action was taken on the part of the followers in at that time, the Nation of Islam, they were getting orders from Wallace and and his staff. I can't say for certain if Minister Jeremiah was involved, because at that time Minister Jeremiah was relieved of 12's duty and was transferred to number 7, and Minister Farrakhan was transferred to Chicago's Mosque number 2B in the basement next to the generator, where all you heard was a humming sound.
Wow.
And so, there's a lot of history that's involved in during that time, because um, the, the thing is, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad knew about the brothers in the field. That's the point that I would like to make about the letters. Didn't know about us. Why do the letters? Why ask for the brothers to report to you? Why ask the brothers to give you a written report? And at that time, we were following the chain of command. We received the orders from Brother Field Major Farad Savior. And he was in the county jail also. And he sent forth, you have to do these reports. He himself he sent his letter to us as the example, because we had to have a certain heading and everything on that official letter. And the official heading, if I can remember word for word, it was in the name of Allah, in the person who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever. And we thank Allah with a perfect example of himself in the personage of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the messenger of Allah. Assalamu alaikum. That was our opening to our father, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the brothers said, dear holy apostle, my name is no. May Allah find you in good health and receiving His richest blessings upon receiving this letter. And then we explain, my name is Brother First Lieutenant, Brother Field Lieutenant Keith Hill, and explain the whole case.
Okay.
Our,
And this, I gotta interrupt you.
yes.
Uh, Look, we got two questions, and we
Go
hold
ahead.
your thought. We
Go
got to
ahead.
go back. This question here: what year did Farrakhan say that you can take my head, and where?
That was in 1980. I believe it was in Baltimore, the Maryland area.
Gotcha,
I,
gotcha.
I'm in the process of trying to contact a brother from Baltimore. I'll probably do it tomorrow. And also, there's another brother who's very close to Farrakhan that I'm also have to get back with him. So there's a number of people that are close to Farrakhan, as well as my cousin. Which
So that was videotaped or on
it was a
recording?
it was a recording.
Gotcha. Okay. And that
Yeah,
was in Maryland in 1980. And the
yeah,
last question is Gina Woods asked you, Mr. Keith Hill,
yeah.
does that mean that a state of war will continue to exist between the NWNOI and Wallace's followers because of the Battle of the Knives and that beef that you wouldn't fall under his leadership, or that the New World Nation of Islam was teaching that Elijah Muhammad was more than just the messenger?
Uh, um, no, that does not exist right now. Time has all those people and the people that were with him, that or with them, that were in opposition or and the opposite side of us. Most of them have passed away, and a lot of them realized the foolishness of the particular beef. In fact, being that some of those brothers and sisters that we've made peace with help us because they have knowledge of certain activities that were being taking place in the mosque that could help the brothers and sisters in setting up the model mosque. You know, one of the things that I've been blessed um, to have been in the mosque and have know all of the ins and outs, the departments and so forth. So you know, I'm every day constantly sharing that with the brothers and sisters around me, so that we'll be fully equipped because we can get knowledge from where's that we like the bees. You know, go get the nectar, go get the knowledge. Next, you said you had another.
I believe spokesman has something to say on that.
Go ahead.
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thought your hand was raised. Go right ahead.
All right. Wow. Well, Brother Keith Hill, thank you for sharing that account of being there on that historic moment of the Battle of the Knives. So, out of the 10 brothers, and 150 Muslims were fighting you 10, how many of the 10 did not make it out of that battle, sir?
Um, the only one that didn't make it was Cleophas Mayers, better known as Jeff, and known as field minister Abdul um, Ali. That was
Oh,
the only one. Um, Anthony Matthews, he, I think he passed away, but he passed.
wow. Thank you so much,
He
good
had kidney
brothers.
failure. Uh, um, um, Lamont Calloway. No one has heard from him since he got out of prison. Um,
Oh, he's still alive?
he's still alive, from what I understand.
Amazing. Well, Brother Keith Hill, we want to thank you so much for sharing that with us. I want to thank everyone on the stage with us tonight. I want to thank all the guests. Again, I am Wahida Clark, the official queen of street literature. This is Street Talk with Wahida Clark. The subject is Elijah Muhammad's New World Nation of Islam, also known as Muslim Gangsters. The book is live right now on Amazon, as well as this one right here, the Al Farad, The Dawn. This was a book that Minister Farrakhan was ordered to teach out of by the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. These brothers that's on the stage, these are major scientists in the teachings of the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. They have been followers of the honorable Elijah Muhammad for a minimum of 45 years, have never turned back, didn't go Orthodox, didn't go back to 5%, didn't go NOI, didn't go Christian, didn't go back into the dead world. That's who we have on the stage. I see Brother Samad is back. He's one of the New World 17. Did you have a question before we close out and let everybody go? Because everyone has been hanging out with us since 7:30, and we do appreciate it. Brother Samad, you had one more question or comment before we left, before we leave
Yes,
for this
ma'am.
evening. Go ahead,
Yes,
sir.
ma'am. I have a comment in reference to the Battle of the Knives. I remember being with Muhammad some years back, and this was after the Battle of the Knives, and he said that that particular incident stepped up the day of judgment on those people.
Yes, sir. Thank you for sharing that, sir. Thank you for sharing that. Um, Do we have any closing remarks from Brother Hadi Ali and the national spokesman of the New World Nation of Islam before we close out?
No, ma'am. I'm just drunk. Thank Allah Muhammad much for this session.
Drunk with wisdom, don't give people the wrong idea. Were you drunk from wisdom? Is that correct, sir?
Yeah. Well, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Drunk from wisdom. Brother National Spokesman, do you have any closing remarks before we leave and end this room for this evening?
Yes, ma'am. Hold on to everything that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us. Never let anyone deceive you from rejecting the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Put your life on the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and you will see that you will see a bright and unlimited future if you leave his teachings as it is.
Well, I think you guys are, you brothers are an example of that, holding on to the teachings and never letting go and letting no one deceive you. Praise be to Allah Muhammad. Okay, all right. My moderator, my co-moderator, do you have any closing remarks before we close out?
Oh, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. I think everything went good. And Wahida Clark.
Wahida Clark, you mad.
All right, all right. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. And with that, we hope you join us again. If you have any questions, DM me or hit me, DM me on here, back channel me here on Clubhouse or on Instagram. Go to nwnoy.org. Read the Al Farad, read Elijah Muhammad's New World Nation of Islam. Listen to this last song, and good night, everybody. Peace.
You got to give the people now. Give the people what they want. Yeah. Don't that know you got to give the people. Give the people what they want. Oh, social media. Well, I done been all over the world, and everybody feels the same. It's a unanimous decision. I said we're ready for change. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Give the people, give it up. Give people what they want. Throw it out. Now, give the people. Give people what they want. But it's about time for things to get better. We want the truth, and no more lies. We want freedom, justice, and equality. I want it for you, and I want it for me. You.
Thank you, and good night.